The Pokemon card hobby is booming. Over the last month, we've seen a surge in popularity for Pokemon cards, seemingly overnight. Now, this is not the first time we've seen a boom like this in the Pokemon card hobby. Back in 2016, with the release of Pokemon Go and another popular Pokemon card set, XY Evolutions, a very nostalgic set for a lot of people, we saw a massive spike then in popularity for Pokemon cards. And then in 2020 and 2021, we saw another boom in the Pokemon market with basically the pandemic happening, people being stuck at home wanting something to do. Also, the fact that they sent out free money stimulus checks to a lot of Americans, and then you also had influencers coming into the hobby like Logan Paul. All of this caused a massive surge in this hobby as well. What's different this time is nobody can quite pinpoint why this is happening, but I want to share what I think the reason is, and it may not be what you think. Now, I started to notice something was strange back in the summer when they released the set Twilight Masquerade. Now, if you've been around since then, you know that the big chase from that set is the Greninja EX Special Illustration Rare. Now, for a lot of the chase cards in a lot of sets, it's not uncommon for them to be worth a little bit over $100 out of the gate. You may even have a couple cards in the set that are at that price point. But most of the time, the week after release and for the weeks following, you'll see those cards slowly decline in value. But something completely different happened with Greninja EX. It actually went up, and not up by a little, it went up by a lot to $200, that range, and now it's sitting actually just below $300. I don't know about you, but I was just thinking, what is going on here? Is Greninja really that popular? Do people really just love this art that much? It just didn't make any sense. Now, granted, I know Greninja is a fairly popular Pokemon. He was featured heavily in the anime, but I have not heard many people tell me that Greninja is their favorite Pokemon. Many people like him, but it's just not up there with a lot of the more popular ones like Gengar, Umbreon, Charizard, Pikachu, a lot of the Kanto and the Johto Pokemon especially. And tell me, when have we actually had a Greninja card that was actually valuable? Like, even the alternate art tag team card right now is sitting just below $100. Now, I will admit it does have some nice artwork to it, but again, it also features the Terastal crown, which up until this point, everybody was completely hating on. And now all of a sudden, I heard people saying, could this be the Moonbreon of the Scarlet and Violet era? I don't know, guys, maybe I'm the crazy one, but that's a pretty crazy thing to say. All right, but let me back up a little bit more from here. So on my channel, I actually have a lot of videos that is basically tips for collectors. A lot of them that I made within the first year I got back into Pokemon card collecting. And you know what? I actually saw a huge surge in views on a lot of these videos on my channel during one particular time. And that's when Scarlet and Violet 151 was released. Not to mention, on top of that, I was surprised to see a lot of people commenting on the videos that they were just then getting back into this hobby for the very first time. I just assumed that anyone who would be interested in Pokemon cards would have gotten in back in 2021, but that has not been the case. Now, I think we all know that 151 has been a massively popular set featuring the original 151 Kanto Pokemon, and it may even be my favorite modern set of all time. So it's definitely no wonder why this would attract a lot of new people to come into the hobby at that time. Now, up until 151, people were a little bit down on the new Scarlet and Violet era, and honestly, these first several sets were a big letdown to a lot of collectors. Despite how people feel today, people did not love Scarlet and Violet base. They didn't love Paldean Fates. They absolutely seem to hate Obsidian Flames. Even though these cards have some beautiful illustration rares featuring actually some pretty popular Pokemon, it wasn't what people were expecting. They were expecting something like the Altards, the highest rarity chase, which in Scarlet and Violet are known as the special illustration rares, but all of the ones that were coming out were not of popular Pokemon. So again, I'm not saying it was logical or even follows what the sentiment is today, but the sentiment back then was basically like, we just came off of Lost Origin, Silver Tempest, Astral Radiance, all these sets that had great trainer galleries and fantastic alt arts as well. I think a lot of people view the illustration rares akin to the trainer gallery cards or the Galarian gallery cards, which are a lot more common, a lot easier to pull than illustration rares. So again, people were not really fans of these first several sets in Scarlet and Violet, but then came 151, and all of a sudden the hype was astronomical. I think the feeling was, okay, now things are ramping up. Now we're going to start getting some cool sets in Scarlet and Violet. But that's not what happened. For some reason, it seems like the Pokemon Company throttled the next several sets in this block. Think about the set that came out right after 151. It was Paradox Rift, which, has a couple nice illustration rares, but really no major chase. That Roaring Moon is now not worth very much, and a lot of the cards that are the high rarity special illustration rares are just not really that desirable. Following that, we had a actually pretty good set, Paldean Fates as a specialty set. However, it almost kind of missed the mark with a lot of collectors because people were no longer interested in baby shinies. They wanted the alt arts. So I think that set was a little bit of a letdown for a lot of people. Then after that came Temporal Forces, which is again, I think a pretty decent set. However, it also didn't have the chase that a lot of people were looking for. I think some people just don't really like the Paradox form of Entei and Suicune and all them, so that I can kind of understand, but this set still kind of lacked that chase rarity, that popular Pokemon that's just obvious everybody is going to want to chase. And honestly, it should have been Gengar. Like, they have the Ghastly illustration rare, and they even have a Gengar full art, so why did they not have a Gengar special illustration rare? Well guys, I hope you're tracking with me so far, but first, if you're enjoying the video, do me a favor and hit that like button below and subscribe so you don't miss any content in the future. If you're watching this and hear me talk about these old sets and you think, well, what are you talking about? Paldea Evolved is a very popular set. It has the Magikarp. Or Paradox Rift is a popular set. It has the Groudon. Well, that has not been the sentiment up until recently. Again, a lot of these sets people liked, so they were fine, but where was the chase? So now that catches us up to the release of Twilight Masquerade, where this Greninja card just explodes. And you know what I realized? People have been that desperate for a chase. What I think happened is around the time that Twilight Masquerade came out, reality finally set in for those people here in the hobby. They realized, okay, illustration rares, they're actually pretty rare and they actually look pretty good. And two, these Terrestrial Crowns, which we all hate, they're here to stay. And all it took was one chase card with a half decent Pokemon and a nice art for people to go crazy. When I saw Twilight Masquerade do what it did, which really it's not a much better set than any of these other sets we've got in Scarlet and Violet, I realized that this hobby has been a lot stronger than we thought, even since 151. What I believe is that a lot of people entered the hobby around the time that 151 came out, and while the hype around Pokemon cards died down kind of between then and now, I don't think the people who came back in at that time ever actually left, and in fact I think their numbers have been increasing slowly since then. So when we finally got a set featuring a Chase Pikachu, what do you think is going to happen? And even regardless of your opinion of the Pikachu SIR, this is the chase that people have been waiting for a long time. This, coupled with the fact that we just got the new Pokemon TCG Pocket, which I'm sure has brought some other people into it as well, the Pokemon card hobby is booming, and I think it's just the beginning. I could be wrong, this might just be a blip on the radar, but I have the sense that things are not going to slow down from here. In fact, it almost appears that the Pokemon Company is finally taking their foot off of the brake and stepping on the gas for these next several sets in Scarlet and Violet. Think about it, we've got the Eevee set, Prismatic Evolutions coming up next, and shortly after that we're going to have a Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge sort of set, and then we also have a Team Rocket set on the horizon as well, and who even knows after that. So what I think makes this boom different than what we've seen in the past is I don't think we're going to be able to pinpoint one particular event that caused all this popularity to flood in. I think the popularity has been there for a long time and it's been slowly growing under the radar. And now collectors who have been here all along finally have a reason to be excited. So guys, I not only believe that the Pokemon hobby is booming, but it's very strong, and I'm very excited to be here along with you guys. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe below, and you may enjoy one of these videos here on screen next. Lastly, I want to let you know that no matter what you're going through, you are not alone. God is with you, and He loves you, and we do too. I'll catch you next time.